Hi, everybody. This is Blaine DeSantis, and I welcome you to another edition of Books and Looks. Yes, my weekly podcast about books I've been reading and interviews with authors. Maybe something I'm looking at also. But we're coming at you with a live show today. That's my brand new show. Very excited about this. Had a couple weeks break, and now we're ready to get going again. And what are we going to start out with? Well, I'm going to start out today a little bit differently because I don't have an author interview. That's actually going to start next week. Instead, what I'm going to talk to you about today are books that I've been reading over the summer. Yeah, I've had a little bit of a break to read books I know probably aren't going to make it onto the podcast. So I thought I'd talk to you just a little bit about those books. And one of the books that I want to talk to you about is called Doc. That's right, Doc. And it's written by Mary Doriah Russell. Now, this is a fictionalized book about the life of Doc Holliday. Now, yes, I know, you know, I love the West. And Doc's one of those infamous figures from the West. And I held off on this book for a long time because I wondered how would it be a fictionalized book about somebody that I really, knew a lot about. Well, now I kick myself for waiting so long to read this book because it's really well done. And it goes into so many aspects of Doc's life, most of which has been very meticulously researched. So you're reading about him, and she's filling in a little bit of the gaps, and it's really, really a wonderful book. Doc, like I said, like Doc Holliday, yeah. And she has another book out. It's the second book in this series called The Epitaph, and I hope to get to that maybe during my winter break. But for now, I've been reading Doc. Now, I got to talk to you about John Grisham's new book, okay? You say John Grisham, and everybody has different ideas. But you know what the one thing is that's always there? Number one on the New York Times bestseller list. That's right, always number one. Oh my, I'm not so sure about this book. This book is bringing back Mitch McDear. Now, if you followed Grisham, his first huge hit was The Firm, and it followed Mitch McDear and his wife Abby as they went and, sort of broke up that law firm in Memphis and went on the run. Well, this book brings back the couple 15 years after that time period in 2005. And Mitch has landed on his feet, as has Abby. They're in New York. They're with the biggest law firm in the world. And they go over to represent a Turkish client in Libya, and one of the legal associates is kidnapped and held for ransom. And there you go. That's it. Yep. Person's held for ransom. And what is Mitch McDear doing for the rest of the book? Finding the money to pay this ransom. And that's it. There's no redeeming characters. Mitch himself is sort of, his wife Abby are sort of snobs. I don't get it. I got to be honest with you. I gave it a 2-star rating. It's just really, I don't understand it. Usually with Grisham, you have a pattern with him about writing and, the protagonist on the run, but we're looking for some higher, moral purpose. Not that. Missing it completely here. I just don't get this book. But nonetheless, I read it, and you'll hear it. It's coming out, I think, in October. And you'll see it. And like I said, I'm sure it's going to go to number one on the list, but not on mine. Instead, I want to talk to you about The Lost Lady. Yeah, I'm reading that book too. Now, that's by a wonderful, wonderful writer named Laura Morelli. And Laura's going to actually be joining us next year. That's how far in advance we're booking. But next year, she's going to join us to talk about one of her other books. But this was one of her first big books. It is a historical fiction book about the painting the Mona Lisa. And two women who were separated by almost 450 years who are trying to save this painting, one in the late 15th century, another one around the time of World War II. Very good book, well written. Laura Morelli is an art historian, so you're going to get really good information from her. And I'm telling you, this is an enjoyable read. I'm very happy that she'll join us this winter. And until that time, I'm trying to read her other books as much as I can. You get hooked on these authors. You want to read each and every one of the books that they do. So that's another one that I've been reading, The Lost Lady, which leads me to, again, another one of my favorite authors, William Thomas. Will Thomas has got, that whole series we have back there, the set back in Victorian era London. Well, I've been reading that. I started at number 1. I'm at number 3, The Limehouse Text. Wow, this is a good book. I think this is a really, really good book. And it's all about the area in London called Limehouse, and it's about a Chinese martial arts text, and it is great. A lot of action, good characters, and I tell you, if you like that sort of Victorian era mystery, private detective stuff, this is one that's really going to catch your fancy. So that's another one that I have been reading. And it's fun to be able to read the books from these authors that I've talked to them, and you've heard them in the Books and Looks, and then to read some of their other works. Just a lot of fun. So that's what I've been doing this summer, okay? But let's forget about the summer, and let's get to what's coming up. That's because that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the fall schedule. And you know what? Every week is filled. Every week is filled. That's right. From the show on August 29th until the last episode of the fall, which is December 19th, every week is filled. Other than the Thanksgiving break, okay? Other than that, every possible week. The authors are coming to us, the readers, the folks. You don't know how many requests I get from publishing companies, from publicists, and from the authors. Can we do your book? Can we do your book? I just talked to a lady today who's doing one for next St. Patrick's Day. I mean, that's how far in advance we're booking these authors, and they're really good books. And the first book we're doing is by Julia Bryan Thomas. That's next week. You say, wait, Julia Bryan Thomas? That sounds like Will Thomas. Yeah, it's his wife. Can you believe that? Yeah, what a talented family. And we're doing her novel, The Radcliffe Ladies Reading Club, which just is great. It's not the typical reading club, book list, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom. You know those things. Every time you see book clubs, book lists, library, this, you know what you're getting. Many times a cozy, many times a soft thing. You're going to love this book. It's completely different. It's set back in the 1950s in the area of Radcliffe College, and you're going to really, really enjoy it. But she's the first one to kick it off. We're getting authors from, Julia's from Oklahoma. We have authors coming in from California. I've got a Canadian author coming. I've got some coming over from England. Yeah, you're coming all over, and topics out of this world. We have the most varied list of authors I've ever had. Now, I know I've only been doing this a year, but we have a varied list of authors. We've got historical fiction. We've got nonfiction. We got a book on food and crime. Oh, my word, wait till you hear about that one. We're even going to go to a karaoke championship in a book. Yeah, a novel about karaoke championships. Oh, my. We're going to go over to Java, and a historical novel, and really, really an interesting thing, because we're going to be taking a look at the internment camps for the POWs over at Indonesia, in the Netherlands, East Indies. This is a fascinating book that we're going to be talking about. We're going over to Paris. Yeah, a wonderful book about food over in Paris. I got a biography on Charlie Chaplin that's coming up. One of my favorite writers, Neve Marsh, is coming in with her third book. So they're all here. We've got writers that you may have heard of, maybe you haven't heard of, but they're all coming here. We even have one gentleman who's going to be in talking about children of the 1940s over in England. You know, we see the war and the post-war, World War II, that is, era from our perspective, but we don't always get what was it really like over in England after the bombing and after the war. We're going to be having somebody to talk about that. We're going to have a Christmas book. Okay, I got a cozy. Yep, I do have a cozy coming in too. So we have that. We have another airship book. Oh, who can forget Mark Beesing's N4 Down? Well, we have another one. Yeah, another different airship book. That's coming in. And we're wrapping up this year with a gentleman from Ohio who's going to be talking about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln and who really was behind the whole plot. You know, there are a lot of more possible conspiracies than we want to think about. So this is just some of the information we got coming at you. And they're great books, wonderful books. I've read them all. And as a matter of fact, we've already started booking January, February, March 14th. I just scheduled one. I mean, it's just great. I can't thank these authors and these publishers and these PR people enough. But you know what? I can't thank you enough. That's right. I can't thank you, the readers, enough for all you're doing to help make this. Now, listen, every Monday we're trying to put out a little Instagram, giving you a little preview about what's coming up on the show. We're also starting a new thing on Instagram called Personalized Book Recommendations by me, which I'm going to be giving some book recommendations that are not going to make it on onto the podcast, but books that I've read, which I think you're going to enjoy. And if you think I've read good books for the podcast, then you should have trust that I'm going to be giving you good books that I've read here. I'm not going to give you clunkers, folks. I'm not going to give you clunkers. No clunkers allowed. But anyway, that's what's coming up. We have a lot of excitement going on. We may even start do some giveaways. I'm not sure. Lots happening here, but I'm asking you to please, please, please share, tell your friends about it. Keep joining, keep following, keep listening, because it's all for you guys as I'm doing this. I'm having a lot of fun, but you know what? You have been great followers, great subscribers, great listeners, and I'm hoping you'll continue to follow us all through the fall. That's right, all through the fall of 2023. So anyway, on behalf of ViewsOnBooks.com, on behalf of Podcast Studio X, and on behalf of Books and Looks, this is Blaine DeSantis saying, may all your leaves be pages in a book.